Just go with the flow. 5 simple words. You may have heard this expression before, and more often than not, you may have heard it in a situation when you were in doubt, when you didn't know what to do, when you were going to do something, but deep down inside, you knew somehow it might be wrong. But going with the flow just seems like the easy thing to do. Going with the flow would get people to accept me, you might think. That way of thinking can easily block out any thought of values that you'd want to take care of, values that we've been taught as true Christians. But why is it that in those instances does it seem so easy to just go with the flow, even knowing it may compromise our Christian values? Well, the Apostle Paul forewarned in his second letter to his co-worker Timothy that, "You may as well know this too, Timothy, that in the last days it is going to be very difficult to be a Christian." How is it going to be very difficult to be a Christian, you might ask? In another translation of that same verse it says, "You need to realize that during the last days before Christ returns, evil people will make it difficult for believers to behave as they should." It's difficult to be a Christian because people who do not share the same values will make it difficult for true Christians to uphold their values or behave as they should. These are evil people who live as they want regardless of God's laws. They're the ones saying, "Just go with the flow," using their flowery words to get others to do what they're doing, even if it's wrong. But what makes it even more difficult? Well, in another translation of that same verse it says, "But you need to be aware that in the final days, the culture of society will become extremely fierce." It's not just one person telling you to go with the flow. It's an entire society. People with a culture that is extremely fierce and goes against the will of God. These are people you may encounter every day. Giving in to their enticement, will make them happy. You avoid confrontation or conflict with them. You may even develop a relationship with them, you might think. But is it worth ruining your relationship with God and with Christ? Is it worth giving up what God has promised you, salvation and eternal life? Though it is difficult to be a Christian in our time because of the worldly cultures around us, there is someone who constantly reminds us of the Christian culture we must uphold. He inspires us on how we should be proud members of the Church of Christ. He is our executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. What are we advised by our leader in facing this time that is very difficult to be a Christian? Just like what the Apostle Paul advised the early Christians in Ephesus, "Therefore, see that you walk carefully, living life with honor, purpose, and courage, shunning those who tolerate and enable evil, not as the unwise, but as wise, sensible, intelligent, discerning people." True Christians are careful not to compromise our values as Christians by living a life with honor, honoring God through obedience to His commands, living with a purpose that is to be worthy of salvation and life everlasting, living with courage, bravely facing evil, and denying these acts that would ruin our elect, living wisely, not just going with the flow, but always in the know of living Christian life.